Hello again. Today I want to do a little video on something called Star Wars Connexions. It's a disc-based collectible game that ran for 3 sets that I'm aware of, and were released the same weekend, or the weekend kind of before Force Awakens. They called it Force Friday. It was the first one of those they did. They did one for each of the movies after that. But that first Force Friday, they had a whole bunch of unique concepts and content coming out. And one of them was this game. It's not quite a card game, but it is collectible, and you do have to kind of build a deck per se. It's a little bit like dominoes. You're basically trying to set your pieces down and connect them with these various connection points. You get different points depending on the amount of points you can connect, or the little, specific dashes that you can connect, and the color of the disc. But then additionally, at a deeper level, you can get more points for how familiar you are with Star Wars, how well you can connect those characters to one another, to different discs and things like that. So, of course, being a Force Friday release for Force Awakens, the first set was hinting at Force Awakens related content. So in this first set, they had put out a couple of pieces that were kind of previews for the movie, and they were these kind of black bordered discs that had no stats, because no one knew how strong they were, like what their allegiances were yet, things like that. So they had kind of all the main cast with these black bordered discs included in the first set, along with a bunch of staple Star Wars stuff. But with these discs, you could kind of place them to they were called blockers, and no one could connect to a black-sided disc. So you were allowed to include one in your deck and set them down and just kind of stop the movement, which is cool, but the downside is that you don't get any points for that. So as you build a deck, if you will, for this game, the first thing and most important thing to think of is how easily you can connect your pieces to themselves. But additionally, how well you can connect them to other pieces, how available they are to connect to other characters. That being said, I wanted, of course, to build a Kylo Ren base deck. I absolutely love Kylo Ren. I don't love the sequel movies, but Kylo Ren himself is fantastic. I don't care what anyone says. And so this is my deck of Star Wars Connexions that I've been playing recently. It actually does work quite well. You play with a 7-card pile. There are green sort of rimmed discs where they have green color around the edge, like the ship here. There are blue bordered ones, and there are red bordered ones. The different colors on the outside, the clear plastic, the gray plastic, the black plastic, those kind of different rarities. Grays were commons, blacks were uncommons, clears were rares, and things like that. But the important part was the color of the actual sticker. So when you're building a deck, you're allowed to have 3 red discs, and then any number of other discs. Other than you're only allowed 1 copy of the 1 blocker disc. You can also only have 1 specific unit. So you can have 1 Kylo Ren, 1 Darth Vader, 1 whatever. And then characters that exist in the same name, like you can't run Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. You also can't connect them, but I'm just going to go into kind of running through the discs that I'm running in this particular list. I don't think I've ever seen anyone post a video on a team they've built for this game, so I think that would be fun to do. So to start off, I have Kylo Ren's shuttle. It's our 1 green disc in the deck. The green discs are worth the most points, but they're typically the hardest to pair to. There are a lot of the really unique, weird aliens and stuff, just like the one-off kind of guys. The real Star Wars buff will make a good high-scoring deck out of green discs, but the average player will not have a great connection game with a lot of the green characters. I am going to have a blast putting that together because I absolutely love all that deep, expanded lore Star Wars stuff, and I'm going to have a blast with that. But the average person will probably put together a deck of blue stuff with main characters, and red with Palpatine and Vader, and things that, most players pick up. Ideally, of course, being just like a silly collectible game, this was marketed kind of at kids, mostly, especially it was like found in toy sections. There were actually specific bags that you could get that were in just the toy section, some that were just in the checkout aisles that had different chances for different cards in them, or discs. But I digress. First one is Kylo Ren's shuttle. It has connection points of 3, 3, 2, and 2. You can't to connect a piece to something, you have to have higher points than it. So this is it's easy to connect things to this. It is a little bit difficult to connect this to things, but it does serve as a decent hub for parts of the rest of this list. And it's a green disc. If we can connect to this, we get a good chunk of points. Our blue discs we have 3 of, because we are allowed 3 reds, so we're going to run them. We of course then have our Kylo Ren disc. This is the one from set 2. I like the holograph, the foil background for him. I do have one from set 3 where he was on a clear disc, and I debate a little bit sometimes which one is actually cooler. The clear disc is a rare, where this is just a rarer common essentially, but the foil is impressive. Kylo Ren, on the other hand, different from his ship, has 4 on 3 sides, 1 on 1. So he is incredibly easy to connect to things on most sides, except for his one stat here. He is easy to connect to his ship in any regard. He can connect to... the only thing he can't connect to is his ship, but his ship can connect to him here. But he can connect on any of his other sides to the ship, so that's perfectly fine. 444 is like... your main characters kind of tend to have stats sort of like that, so it's not an uncommon stat line in general, but it's an easy... having numbers that high makes it easy to connect to. It also makes it hard for your opponent to connect to it and steal points out. Not steal points, but get points out of your own pieces. We have a Finn in the deck as well. The theme of this kind of deck is First Order, but Finn really does fit the bill there too. He's 3 on all 3 sides, which actually makes him... you only start with 1 piece on the board. This is kind of my starting piece in most cases. He's really easy to connect to on any side, depending on what... so your opponent plays a piece like this, and your pieces are played like this when the game starts, and so you can get a piece in right here and connect for 1 point plus your points plus their points plus your points. And so if you can pull that off, Finn is a really easy way to do that. It's easy to get any of these guys to plug into that slot, and if they can connect with one of the pieces your opponent is playing, you can really score some good points off of that. Finn also connects to any of the pieces included in this deck pretty well. For example, we have a Flame Trooper. We've got 2, 2, 3, and 4. Pretty versatile abilities to connect to stuff. A little low here, but makes it easy for for pieces to connect above it, and it's pretty good at connecting to pieces below it. But for example, connects to Finn on a couple of sides here, as Finn was part of the First Order. As the First Order Stormtroopers were, Flame Troopers were their offshoot of the Stormtroopers, which Finn was. There we go, we can score the extra points for the Star Wars connection there. So there's our 3 blues and our green. Our final red pieces here, we have an actual Stormtrooper. 1, 2, 3, 2, really low stats here, but Stormtroopers connect to anything. The First Order Stormtrooper can connect to any of these. Stormtroopers in general can always be connected back to, God, anything. Anyone in the main trilogy has fought Stormtroopers. Darth Vader has had Stormtroopers. They were on the Death Star. There's Stormtroopers everywhere, so a piece like this is incredibly versatile. We do have a Luke Skywalker. Now this set did come out, these did release before Last Jedi, so the spoiler of Luke at the end of Force Awakens were not out yet, so the only Lukes that exist are kind of the art from the trilogy, which most people will enjoy, but for thematic sake you can't have like old exile Luke to connect to your new stuff, but it's still kind of the same character, doesn't change, but just aesthetics. The weird thing about Luke is he doesn't have a 1 here. This stat is called Deceit, and obviously Luke doesn't have any Deceit, so he doesn't have a stat here. So he is a little tough in that he has a blank side, but 3, 5, and 4 make him really easy to connect to stuff. He can connect to any of this. Kylo Ren is, fights Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. He's hunting him. Finn is aware of the legend of Luke Skywalker, is looking for him with Rey. Luke has obviously fought stormtroopers. I mean, there's a ton of connections that can be made with these. And of course, finally, we have a Darth Vader. 1, 4, 4, 5. Huge point stats, really easy to connect on most of his sides, and connects to most of this as well. Darth Vader had stormtroopers. Darth Vader, of course, is connected to Luke. Darth Vader is connected to Kylo Ren, and then Kylo Ren is trying to finish what you started, and is his grandfather. There's just a lot of easy pieces to connect. The nice thing about pieces like Luke and Vader is that they connect to goddamn near every part of the prequel or the original trilogy. Vader can connect to a ton of the prequel trilogy stuff, Yoda's and Obi-Wan's and all kinds of things like that. So these pieces specifically really make this deck real easy to connect to other grids as your opponent keeps placing their own pieces down. You're not going to be able to just set your pieces down like this and be like, well, that worked. They're going to put stuff in between you and things like that, so you want your guys to be able to interact with other pieces that are on the board, and your Vader and Luke are kind of your pieces to do that, along with your Stormtrooper. These 3 here really will connect to just about anything. The 3 First Order kind of related pieces are all my kind of theme of wanting this new movie representation, and then Kylo's ship is my tough connect, but does get me more points. You can play with more discs. The rules say like, oh, you can play with 10 or 15 or whatever, but the specific list for rules is 7. This is my 7 for my First Order, Kylo Ren's First Order deck, and it does pretty well. It's pretty easy to score points. It's not the highest scoring list you could possibly make because you don't have a lot of greens and things like that, but it does connect really well, and their connections all work really well with each other, so you can score a lot of bonus points that way, and it's just pretty accessible. I will have, another 1 or 2 of these that I'll do at some point, but I just think it's fun. I have a ton of these discs, and I've played it a bunch, and I just think it's a cool game, and there's like 4 videos that exist online of this game, and they're all from the original company, just putting out like 2-minute videos on how to play the game. So I thought, a little deck profile, quote unquote, would be fun. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Until next time, we'll take a look at something else. I've always got more to see. Adios.